And we are back. Welcome to the second hour of Hard Lens Media. Thank you to our live stream audience who's tuning in. Thank you for our listeners who are listening to us on 1680 AM or listening to us on the Q4 webpage. This is the second hour, and in the second hour, Lauran Hahn has a breaking story in regards to the Women's March, as well as we're going to have a guest come in who's a member of Chicago Socialist Alternatives. So that's a branch of the Socialist Alternative Party as a whole.
It's the month of third parties.
Yeah. This is, by the way, yes, thank you, Daniel, for reminding me. This is the month of third parties. This first, of course, Saturday, we're having Socialist Alternative. Next Saturday, the Indiana Green Party will be here. The Saturday after that, the Illinois Libertarian Party will be here. And final, to end it all, we'll have a member of the Democratic Socialists of America come in here as well. This is a month, a brand new year, 2018, and we're giving it to the third parties. So tune in to Hard Lens Media every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. So that being said, Lauran, your story on the Women's March.
Yes, so we are reaching the one-year anniversary of the Women's March that took place on January 21st, the day after Trump was inaugurated, and it blossomed into a day of resistance that had over 600 marches worldwide, millions and millions of people speaking out and demanding a better and fair, justified government and just happy existence. And so this year, starting off strong and considering that we have a pretty important election year, even right here in Illinois too, we have a lot of seats that are coming up, including governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, Secretary of State, comptroller, 118 seats of the Illinois House of Representatives, and 18 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. So as we're approaching on January 20th of this year, in memory of the year that we have had as a country and the endless examples of people marching and protesting and going to the polls and speaking their minds, getting involved, contacting their representatives, sending letters, just overall just getting involved, more mobilizing and organizing. So to celebrate that this last year, January 20th, we're going to have the Women's March to the Polls. So this was organized by Jackie Algie, Liz Radford. She's one of the co-chairs, board of directors. And right now there's currently about 4.6 thousand people. And obviously it's just a rough estimate because predictions of what the Women's March last year was going to be. I was in D.C. for that, and it ended up being like double the amount of what they were expecting. And Chicago definitely represented. I think I saw numbers coming back from that trip from like CNN and even like Fox News, where that number in Chicago here was like 500,000. But so it kind of fluctuates. But
well, we were actually there during the Women's March when we were first really getting started, and I never saw the city of Chicago so filled up with a lot of people. It was a huge event, and plus it really helped knowing that the weather was like, 70 degrees on that day?
It was very nice out.
Yeah, it was very nice in frigid months of December or January, right?
Yeah, January.
January, yeah. So.
How many?
Here in Chicago?
Yeah.
I remember seeing reports about 500,000, but I've also seen reports of like 250. So
that's how many came to my inauguration.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. It was the biggest inauguration. Okay.
Yeah, no, it was crazy.
Now you got me doing it.
No, it was huge. It was really crazy. I mean, I remember for us, it was so big that they canceled the march, and we were like, imagine if everyone had walked to Trump Tower and they didn't.
Oh, yeah, that was an opportunity missed. That was a huge opportunity.
It was like it got so big, it was so successful. They're like, we don't know what to, we couldn't march. I mean, imagine, could you imagine seeing 250,000 people march on Trump Tower in Chicago.
Give
That
or
would have
take-
been amazing.
Give or take 250,000, 500,000 people just marching there on Michigan Avenue, blocking State Street. I mean, it was an opportunity missed, and I
But
guess
that's
I thought there
only
was a
because-
march on Trump Tower.
Yeah.
But it was not an official, like, it
Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Any march on Trump Tower is a march on Trump
I
Tower.
would say that the unofficial march on Trump Tower had about as many people as they predicted to be at the women's march. So it worked out anyway. It was just like everyone was so stunned. We were stunned at how big it was.
The aerial shot, I remember seeing footage of it, and I was like almost tearing up. I was so proud of Chicago.
Yeah.
Like, yes, please, like mobilize. We have to out-organize and mobilize the people that we're speaking out against.
The sign on Trump Tower is as big as my hands. True.
I can't tell you guys how riveting it was to stand in the middle, standing in that courtyard between the Washington Monument and the Capitol, and just in all four directions, it was just people, just 500,000 people, shoulder to shoulder. And, I've never seen that many people with my own eyes, like all at in one place. And then seeing, God, I want to say Los Angeles had like 700,000.
Wow.
Like it was just, there were even groups, well, they weren't marching technically, but in Antarctica, there were like 30, and they had like a group photo and whatnot. There were
Worldwide.
marches
It was
in
worldwide.
Pakistan.
Yeah.
It's like
there
you
were
said.
600.
There were 600 groups worldwide. I mean, every country around the world had some group protesting or marching against Trumpism.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to know, speaking of which, this is something Phil had mentioned on my show before. It's nice to know that the leader of the free world is now a woman, Angela Merkel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a question though, like especially in regards to this year's march. I'm pretty sure after everything the Trump administration has done and the many groups that he has angered or offended, or how his administration's policies will affect a lot of people's lives.
Trump has offended people?
Yeah, well, of course, but I mean, what I'm curious, what I am very curious about though is the turnout for this march, because I mean, of course, there's a difference between what happened last year and this year, and really how many people are going to be turning out to really make their voices heard. What are the organizers going to do? So, has there been any kind of talk about, especially what's going to happen for this year's march and what's going to happen? Has there been any kind of update? Because I know, Lauren, you've been kind of working on something, talking to some of the organizers there.
I did reach out to them. I have not received any responses yet, but I'm hoping to interview some of the organizers, and I do want to also live stream for our audience that day as well, because I do have, and I want to give our listeners some information. I mean, you can find all of this on the Women's March Chicago Facebook page. As far as like an estimate of how many people, it's definitely not going to be 250,000, but just going off of how many people are interested on their Facebook page is about 16,000.
Right.
And then, about 4,500 have confirmed. So I think it's going to be a fascinating experience, and it's supposed to be to encourage more women to get out and vote. Voting, even like female candidates and whatnot, it's... especially here in Chicago, I feel like, or just in this entire state, we have a lot that we can lose still. Yeah. And I feel like this last year has really tested Illinois, the people of Illinois, and who we are willing to accept into our office or into these positions, and write the laws for us that don't end up helping us. Like major positions, and it's especially when it comes to how Illinois was affected by the state budget impasse and the property taxes that were a part of SB 6 and SB 9 that took up like a third of that legislation, and how much that's going to be screwing over a lot of people here in Chicago and all over Illinois.
I have a theory that this year, 2018, will be the year of the woman as far as politics goes because of what happened in Alabama.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that a lot more women than normal will be coming out to vote because of everything that happened last year and we still have a president in the office that has admitted to doing things that he shouldn't be doing with his hands. And and considering what happened with Roy Moore and everything, I really think that there's more than enough women that are so enraged right now about the state of relations between men and women that it's going to be significant.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of Roy Moore, did you see his swearing in picture?
Mm-hmm.
Pence swore Moore in.
Oh, with his son?
His openly gay son.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was, boy, talk about a slap in the face to Pence.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
That guy was giving him serious side eye.
Yeah, I know. It's like, wait a minute. And this is awesome. This is one of the biggest homophobic politicians I've seen in my life.
Well, look at what they're doing with Pence at his own personal home. All his neighbors are putting up pride flags next to Pence's home. Yeah. So, yeah, there you go. There you have it. It's going to be the year of the woman.
Yeah, it's exciting because in a big sense, what causes Democrats to win? What's the voting bloc that goes for Republicans? Again, I've said this for a while. Republicans have a smaller base. Their demographic ability is shrinking every year. Either it's dying off or it's being outnumbered. The fact that they're winning says to me, first, that they're very smart at using very small amount of voter base, but it also goes into how inept the Democratic Party is required to be for them to win. So if we get better candidates in, I mean, remember, there was a period in American history where the Democrats just controlled everything because they were for the people and they wanted to improve the lives of people. And if the Democratic Party simply goes, okay, we're going to actually protect women, we're going to actually expand the rights of all different groups, we're going to ensure the economic disparities that are happening, make sure wages are good, make sure that unions can unionize, things of that nature. I've said it before, the Democrats, as soon as they decide to, they can simply take over the entire country.
I don't know if you know it or not, but the actual our social programs were actually started by a Republican and carried through by FDR, Truman, and the Democratic presidents after that. But the first president to actually implement social programs was Hoover because of the crash.
Well, yeah, but they were lackluster at best because there are reasons why he was elected out. Because remember, when the Great Depression happened, when the markets collapsed,
right.
the office of presidency was a lot different than what we see
right.
today. I mean, it wasn't because the ideal role of president was just that you were the leader of the country, but you didn't have the. I guess I'm just dumbing it down here because there's much more to it, but you didn't have the responsibility to make these kind of decisions because there was concern of overstep of power. Does the president of the United States and supersede Congress or the Supreme Court? Because it was a very delicate situation. And then when Franklin Delano Roosevelt came in, he kind of made the office of president what we know it as today by taking executive command and actually implementing stronger social programs under his administration.
Well, the thing is that Republicans actually did start, and even in the 60s, Republicans were for social programs.
At a time until there was that big shift.
Until corporations started lining their pockets on their behalf. Right. Which is, like Ginger said, we've got to keep money out of politics.
Well, that's been a constant theme, especially with ever since since Citizens United and McCutcheon's decision was passed. Basically, it's open season on which corporation, bank, or Wall Street executive wants to buy our local politicians.
Not just local, but government, the federal government.
Federal government too, yes.
By the way, I just want to say real quick, everybody's been going gaga over the 25,000 mark here. Just so you know, a lot of this was because of Obama-era rules, and be prepared for a market correction soon. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's going to tank, and then everybody's going to be crying.
So let's return back to Lauran.
Yeah, I kind of just want to give some information of where and when. So activities are supposed to begin around 9 a.m. Again, this is on January 20th. And the march, I believe, is supposed to start around 12:30 or so, and they're going to have guest speakers and whatnot. They're working with the Department of Transportation here in Chicago just to block off certain areas. I believe, road closures are scheduled for Columbus Drive from Monroe Street to Bellevue Drive and Jackson Boulevard from Lakeshore Drive to Michigan Avenue. Closures are also scheduled for the westbound lane of Congress Parkway between Columbus Drive and Michigan Avenue. And this is also their accessibility and like family entrance, I believe, is at Monroe and Columbus. So, they're trying to make this as friendly to the public as possible, too. However, I do want to say, because I never really saw any reports on it, but I did have some close friends that were at the Chicago March last year, because there was also a lot of planning with the city as well to ensure safety and whatnot. They had 350 marshals that were trained for that occasion and, 15 miles of downtown streets that were closed off. However, there was definitely police brutality that just didn't happen in front of the cameras, too. And I have a few witnesses that were almost caught up in some of those actions. So I'm hoping, that Chicago, that the police, they do their job and make sure that we have a fun, safe march, because, again, this is for celebrating the year that we have had as the resistance, just
Right.
anyone who's speaking out against an unfair and unjust system that we currently have.
So they shouldn't have the cops there.
Well, no, there should be a
Well, they're
police
supposed
force,
to keep us safe.
But I mean,
Bring in the National Guard.
but there has to be some idea of temperance and also making sure not, because people are very angry and there shouldn't be a huge pushback especially from the police. I mean, there shouldn't be any kind of police brutality happening over there.
If they don't want any kind of violence from the protesters or the marchers, pass all choices they're showing up.
Well, that's.
I would say, especially for we've been to a lot of rallies and marches, and I have to say for the Women's March, it was very much in line with the city, set up with the city, and I'm still kind of surprised that there was any violence because we expect it when it's like, hey, we're gonna do a protest and take over the streets, and the city's like, but we want to do commerce here, it's expected, but it's a weird thing because I look at it like, in a sense, you're saying the rally is really for solidarity of the people there to show that we're united, we have power, we can do things. And it doesn't fall along the line of really the other spectrum of a protest where it is we're going to interrupt things with the idea of making it harder for people to ignore what we're doing.
Right.
So
If the city is so concerned about businesses losing customers, why not have the city just say, look, go online and shop there.
Yeah, and
That way you could still shop, protests can still happen, nobody loses anything.
What about restaurants?
Well, they're working with the city to come up with, because they also have to take into account, it's Chicago during the winter. So we could, suddenly have, like a foot of snow the day before. So they're working with the city to come up with the safest route, what would be the least expensive, what's not going to be detrimental to businesses. Again, this is supposed to be just a peaceful, happy, fun kind of event.
Past
They're
Trump
even getting
Tower.
like jumbotrons and whatnot, like stages.
Yeah.
They're going to have performers.
This
and
is like
speakers.
this is closer to Lollapalooza set up than it is to
the
spontaneous
Lollapalooza of politics.
Yeah.
Of,
Lollapalooza of women's rallies.
and voting, the
Yeah.
Lollapalooza of voting.
There we go.
Because we know that there's a lot of voter suppression too, and so we definitely want to make sure that everyone's voices are heard, and that I personally think that when you turn 18, you should be able to vote, like automatic registration, Also, and I just want to, I don't know if we have enough time. I won't. I don't think I'll have time to read off all the names. But as far as the amount of organizers and participating groups this year, I was astounded by how many. I mean, just looking at this list, just eyeballing it, at least 25 to 30 organizers, just to name some. see, the American Civil Liberties Union of Illinois, the Chicago Foundation for Women, Chicago Votes, Chicago Women Take Action, DuPage Progressives for Change, the Fourth Ward Democrats, Indivisible Evanston, Indivisible Illinois, Indivisible Oak Park, the Illinois Education Association. You know, there's just a laundry list of organizers that are supporting this event, and the participating groups is even longer. I see Our Revolution in there, the YWCA, Metropolitan Chicago in there. Again, a bunch of Indivisible, Illinois, Chicago, Evanston. So I think that really kind of goes to show, yes, maybe it's not going to be as large as it was last year. Mm-hmm. However, there are still a lot of people that are investing their time, energy, and money to make sure that that Chicago can once again show up and support one another and encourage more women too to get involved and to go to the polls and make your voice heard. And
I gotta say, I think it's always great to see a bunch of groups coming together. I do
too.
Again, like I said, there's really two ways that a march or rally can go, and this is let's get as many people and show our support, show where we are, and show that we're unified. So, yeah. Kit?
Exactly it. And so that's a great note to end it on. We're definitely going to follow through with the Women's March and what's going to happen for that event.
January 20th.
You're watching Hard Lens Media.